Well, this is episode 377 of the 3 Point Podcast. We're presented by Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center. The orthopedic walk-in clinic is now available for those sports-related injuries Monday through Fridays, 8 to noon. No appointment needed. Also want to thank our other great partners. They include AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Nichols Painting, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, the Shiawassee County Fair, and ALS of Michigan. Our sponsor spotlight tonight, Kori and Associates. It's a great time to buy real estate or a house. So contact Kori and her team. Details online at korishook.com. Guys, before we get rolling too much here, and I'm certainly not going to get political whatsoever, but the whole Charlie Kirk thing, just mind-blowing what's been going on in our country. Like I always say at the end of the show, peace and love, everybody. Be kind. And I really believe that as Americans in general, the far majority are peaceful and kind people. It's just the bad eggs that get all the publicity and do these stupid things. Just a thought or two on that.
Well, yeah, it wasn't even that. I mean, obviously that situation was terrible, but there was a shooting at the school in Colorado.
Absolutely.
The same day. People are kind of brushing over that because they're talking about the Kirk situation. But then, I mean, just not too far from where I'm at here in Charlotte, a few weeks ago, the female got stabbed and murdered on the light rail, basically like the public transportation here in Charlotte. And I mean, there's just the stuff that's happened in the last few weeks over the last month. I mean, you could chalk it up to, it would make a bad decade if this stuff happened. And it's happened within the last few weeks. It really is. There's a lot of evil out there in the world, and it's really a shame.
Yeah, I'll second what you guys said. I mean, peace and love. It's just a weird time, man. And I guess that's why we do what we do, whereas people can get away from that for a little bit. So not to dwell on it too much, but it's just a weird time, and hopefully it gets better.
And you've heard me talk about it before on the podcast. I'll end it with this. The 2020s remind me so much of the 1960s, with the things that went on with the Vietnam War, the assassinations, race relations. I mean, it's almost identical. It's like, don't we learn from history? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just sad to see. We'll get through it, but it's a bad cycle we're in right now. Well, we have a pretty good podcast, I think. In fact, I know we have a good podcast lined up for you. We have award-winning author Joe Posnanski to discuss his book, The Baseball 100, and his great career. We're also going to be joined by Owosso Trojan head football coach Ron Tyner to talk about the unbeaten Trojans. But before we get to the majority of the podcast here, I got a little special early on entertainment tonight here. I'm going to look at my notes here a little bit because I went to a play last Saturday night at the Lebowski Center. It's called Jagged Little Pill, the musical, right? And it's a family drama set to the music of Alanis Morissette's album by the same name. Now, is she from your era, Matt?
That's a legendary album. I mean, that album, it's like defines an era. I mean, Jared, you'd probably listen to it and be like, what the hell is this? But
what's her one hit song? What's her one
Ironic?
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah.
Or You Ought to Know. She has quite a few pretty good.
Yeah, You Ought to Know. I know that one as well. Yep.
Yeah. But, I'm going to give a full review here, so bear with me, fellas. It follows the Healy family through its trials and tribulations, and I'm just going to point out a few standouts in the production. Livy McIntyre, who helped choreograph, had some incredible interpretive dance sequences, including a gut-wrenching scene where the mom, Mary Jane, was going through a major crisis. Fellow dancer Isaac Feldposh, a sophomore at OHS, also showed off his dance skills. Phenomenal. Amanda DeCatch was great as Mary Jane, and veteran actor, you know him, Michael Winnagel.
Awesome.
He was really solid as the workaholic dad, Steve. The kids in the movie, or kids in the play, were fantastic. And finally, Olivia Bath as Joe brought the house down and gave the audience chill bump with her rousing rendition of You Ought to Know. I mean, she has just an absolutely spectacular voice, great actress, but it really did. It gave me chill bumps, man. It was a great production. It really was. And when you think about it, everybody knows about the Wharton Center. Everybody knows about Broadway. But what they're doing at the Lebowski Band, for the price and for what you get, it's tremendous.
I'm with you. It's, I'm jealous. One, thanks for the invite. I don't think anybody knew you were going to the show, and now you surprised with this great review. No, I'm with you. That's why I think the Lebowski Center is such a cool little place, and it's perfect for Owosso. It just matches the town perfectly. I think it has more heart than like a Wharton Center does, and it seems like I've never heard somebody go to a show at the Lebowski and be underwhelmed. It seems like it's just
Right.
They knock it out every time, man.
Even all the way up to, or I guess maybe all the way down, however you want to say it, to like the children's productions. My niece and nephews have been in shows at the Lebowski Center, the like children's theater, and my siblings, when they go to watch, they always say like this is like a top notch production, even for a children's theater. So then you go up to the level of what you just saw, and I mean, would you say it's Broadway level production?
My wife and I were talking about that a little bit, and I would say if you said it was Broadway, you'd be kind of shortchanging Broadway, because I mean that's the cream of the crop, right?
Right.
But I would say solid off Broadway. They have theaters that are off Broadway that put on great productions. I would say they're right there. They're right there with the traveling troops that go to Wharton. In fact, we're going to Wharton on tomorrow night, to go see the Neil Diamond musical that I forget what it's called. Beautiful Noise, I guess it's called.
Nice. You mentioned it to us. I mean, how excited are you to watch the Tonight Show tonight?
Absolutely.
I mean, you basically sent us an alert. Make sure you DVR it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's everything. If I thought of one targeted audience person, it's you for that show. I mean, is that fair to say?
It might be. So are you saying you're not interested in seeing
I
Jimmy
will
Fallon
be.
in Detroit?
I will be. Honestly, I thought it aired last night just because he was at the Lions game, and that doesn't make sense. So they wouldn't air it on a Sunday night.
No.
So what is the deal with that? I didn't even know he was doing that. So where's it at?
I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't see where he shot it. I did see Aiden Hutchinson is in it. So he basically went right from the game over to wherever they filmed it. Who's it? Keenan Michael Peele?
He's in it.
He's in it. I'm blanking on a couple of the other, but yeah, he's got a bunch of Detroit people in it. I never did see why. Why did he come to Detroit? I didn't see if there's a reason.
Sure.
Maybe he's just making some.
It's kind of a cool idea. It makes sense to me. Like if I was that show, like let's move it around every once in a while. It sounds like it's at the Detroit Opera House.
Okay.
No, I'll be excited to tune into that. I mean, it's loaded Monday. It'll be good when we're done recording. We got 2 Monday Night Football games, and then obviously that as well. So and then a 3 Point podcast recording all in the middle of it.
A busy night. Well, before we get to the meat and potatoes of the podcast, I've got to tell you guys. You're already aware. I went to the Lebowski Center on Friday intentionally to buy tickets for an upcoming show. Jeff Daniels is going to be there on Friday, November 21st, and then we also got our Christmas show tickets in advance. We usually get that for Jessica and the girls for a Christmas present. But you and I, we went back and forth, and you said, well, why don't you reach out to Jeff Daniels? So I thought, well, what the hell? Why not? We'll see if we can line him up for an interview, maybe promote the big event coming up November 21st. So I sent the Purple Rose Theater just an unsolicited email, right? Kind of explain what we're all about, kind of schmoozed it up a little bit that, I've been a fan forever. And I sent this email out, and I want to say maybe 15 minutes later, I get an email back, and it's from his agent, and short and sweet says, "Hi, Ted. Thanks for reaching out. This will be a polite pass on behalf of Mr. Daniels. We greatly appreciate you for thinking of Jeff for this opportunity and hope all goes well." It's one of the quickest rejection emails I've gotten in a long time.
I can live with that.
Me too.
It sucks when you don't hear anything. He probably saw that you messaged, said, "Oh, there's that stalker guy that's like obsessed." Who was there like second the gates open at Lebowski to buy a ticket for my show. No, it's awesome. It's awesome that Jeff Daniels is coming. It's so what's he going to be doing? I think maybe we talked a little bit off podcast, is kind of singing a few songs and a little bit of like kind of stand up type thing, or what is
what we've seen him do this before at his theater down in Chelsea, the Purple Rose. He'll sit on stage. Usually he'll have his son with him, Ben, and they both have acoustic guitars, and he's a songwriter. So he writes these songs and he performs them. And then in between songs, he'll tell stories. I think he takes some questions from the audience, that type of thing. It's like an evening with Jeff Daniels, and it's just very cool. And, I might be a slappy for him because I've been a fan forever, but it's pretty cool that he grew up in Chelsea. He still has a house in Chelsea and still supports the arts down there with that theater. Yeah. It's incredible.
It's awesome. If we would have just said we were the Detroit Tigers, he would have jumped on in a second. So
for sure.
He's on the Tigers broadcast all the time. He's like a diehard Tigers fan. It's pretty cool. So,
I got an awesome picture back from around '87 at Tiger Stadium. I'm sitting there interviewing Jeff Daniels. He's got this wavy hair do, right? And he was there as a narrator for, I think, the 4 greatest baseball stadiums, and he was doing narration for it, but he happened to be there. And in those days, I mean, people would talk to you pregame by the batting cage, and he was just down there hanging around. I said, "Hey, Jeff, you got a couple minutes for a quick interview?" He said, "Sure." So I've got a classic picture interviewing Jeff Daniels.
You should have pulled that out when you asked him.
Yeah.
You should have said, "Hey, 30 years ago, I talked to you."
Well, don't tell anybody, but I did have that picture attached to my email too. I go
It is
deep.
what it is. You live with it.
Maybe
right.
that's why you got the quick rejection. They're like, "Who the hell is this guy with this
Oh, I
picture
remember
from?"
that guy.
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right. Well, that's my brush with fame right there. All right,
Nice.
let's take a little break and let's get this thing rolling with a great conversation with Joe Posnanski right after this. Well, we're really excited to have on the pod tonight the fantastic author, Joe Posnanski. Joe, first of all, thanks for joining us tonight. You've written some of the best books about baseball, including my new favorite, The Baseball 100. I just love it. Jared got me kind of hooked onto that. You know, there's so many great stories. I want to start with one here that just jumped out at me that I thought was fascinating that our listeners would enjoy. Robin Yount obviously made the top 100, but tell the story of his brother, Larry.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. I mean, that was so much. That was such a big part of the fun for the Baseball 100. It was, there were players in there that people might not know. Some Negro Leagues players they might not know. Some sort of older players they might not know. But then I wanted to be able to sort of tell a different kind of story for the players that they do know. And Robin Yount's brother was a pitcher and he made it to the major leagues. I mean, he was a true excellent prospect and somebody who looked like he had a very bright future. And he went to the mound on his very first time that he ever had a chance to pitch in the big leagues. Went to the mound, blew out his arm warming up in before the game. And never pitched a single inning, never threw to a single batter in his entire big league career. And, which is, I think that's unique. I mean, there are stories of people getting super duper close, but that's as close as you can get without he didn't even get the Moonlight Graham, one inning or anything. He got nothing. He got nothing. And so I wanted to write about, like, again, for each player, I wanted to find sort of a motivation for them or something that really drove them. And Robin Yount was such a phenom. He was in the big leagues at 18. I mean, he was so young and what was driving him, because there were some really rough early years for him where he played a lot, but it was really struggling. At one point he considered giving up the game and becoming a professional golfer. I mean, like he had a really interesting pre-career before he became a star and an MVP and obviously been a Hall of Famer. And I think so much of that was tied in with his brother.
Yeah.
There's 2 players I want to ask you about specifically from this book, and I absolutely loved it. I actually listened to the audiobook, got through it in maybe 2 weeks. I loved every second of it.
Amazing.
So we're all Tigers fans. First one I want to bring up is Al Kaline, who's actually Ted's favorite player. I had never known the story, and this of him. And it's not quitting, isn't the right word, but that's just what I'll use to describe of him essentially quitting in that final game. First off, what did you think of Al Kaline? Is that fair to say, or what did you make of the entire end of his career and how he kind of stepped away the way he did?
It was just an interesting way to end a career, for a guy that, and what I love about Al Kaline so much, I mean, obviously he's one of the most iconic players in baseball history and also a wonderful guy and just a incredible, I used to love going to Tiger Stadium and he'd be there. He was just always there. He'd be sitting in the stands or he would just come into the press box, and he was just a wonderful gentleman. The 2 things, the ending of his career where he did just walk away from the game and in sort of an, kind of a weird way, right. But also that, and this I never knew, that he was kind of a hothead when he was young, which is, you think of Al Kaline and you think of the ultimate gentleman, right? Like the ultimate example of a player who always, him and Musial and guys like that were you just Hank Aaron, you just viewed them as like, no emotion, just essentially just steady. And that was not true for Al Kaline when he was young. He was kind of a little bit of a hothead. He had a little bit of issues with the media. And what I love about him so much is that he overcame that. Like, he became the great Al Kaline. It wasn't natural necessarily for him. He was in the big leagues so young. And then he was such a big superstar right away, like instantly. Like, his best year of his entire career was that rookie season, that age 19 season, which is one of the greatest, maybe the greatest age 19 season in baseball history. And then, all the injuries and all of the things that he had to endure, and having to sort of adjust who he was makes him, to me, such an iconic figure.
And then what about Ty Cobb? As a Tigers fan, when I grew up, it feels like basically he was painted as maybe the worst guy of all time. Maybe he's obviously was not a perfect person. But
No.
I found it interesting in your book. I mean, you kind of laid out his story. I mean, what a rough go he had. Mom kills his dad. Then he's a rookie on the Tigers and he's getting hazed. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, can we maybe ease it up on the hazing on this guy who just went through that?
Yeah.
What is the story with Ty Cobb? I thought that was a really interesting chapter.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite chapters to write because there is sort of this vision of Ty Cobb. And, it was, the way some people wrote it, that movie that came out about Cobb, that made him into a monster, like really made him a monstrous figure. And there's just so much more there. Look, he was definitely a tough guy. He was definitely a man of his time. He went through, as you mentioned, really, really a rough go as a younger player. As the whole thing with his mother and his father, the way he was hazed, he was really terribly hazed, and he was a very proud man anyway. So he was somebody who took offense to everything. So, when people were hazing him, where the crowd went after him, of course, a pretty famous story of him going after somebody in the crowd who had called him names, somebody who ended up having no hands. It was just a whole weird Ty Cobb story. Right. But there was a lot there. I mean, Ty Cobb was not as unpopular as people made him out to be. He had a lot of friends in the game. He was somebody who I think toward the end of his life did show some signs of bitterness, but Ty Cobb was also one of Jackie Robinson's biggest advocates when he came to the big leagues. And of course, this is a guy that well-known racist, right? Like everybody, like that's all anybody talked about with him. But it was just everything with him is just more complicated than the story is. He was not a black and white player or person. He had a lot of depth to him. He was a very smart guy. He was a great businessman, and the player of his era for sure, and one of the greatest players of all time. And I find it, one of the things I think about with him that I find very striking is that in the very first Hall of Fame vote, he was in the first class along with Babe Ruth and Walter Johnson and Christy Mathewson and Honus Wagner. In that vote, he got the most votes. He got more votes than Babe Ruth. So he couldn't have been that unpopular, I mean, and I think that his story, and it's been recast. There have been, there's a wonderful book out there called A Terrible Beauty about him that sort of clears the air. It to me airs a little bit more on the other side, where he kind of explained away everything that Cobb did. And look, Cobb was incredibly tough, and he did have some very very controversial moments in his life, but there was a real depth to him, and that was a lot of fun to write.
Yeah, I can imagine that there was a lot of stuff that you got into when writing this book that you maybe came across and thought, this isn't how the public sees things, whether it's Ty Cobb or there's probably a ton of other players that you're like, man, this isn't how the public sees things. It'd be nice if more of this came out. And one of those guys, Ted, off air, jokingly said, I was the Barry Bonds era, part of that. Barry Bonds is my favorite player ever. Barry Bonds is my favorite player. I think he is far and away the greatest baseball player ever. And you have him as number 3. in your baseball 100. I love one way that you described his career. What was it? Absurdly astonishing statistics.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's just, it's an incredible way to describe his career. And so I'm one, we've talked about this on the podcast a lot, and I'm sure you've had these kind of discussions a lot around Barry Bonds, or maybe the steroid era, even Pete Rose, maybe until recently. First of all, how was it writing Barry Bonds' career and trying to set aside all the other stuff and putting him rightly as number 3, but then also, what are your thoughts on, should he be in the Hall of Fame? Like, how does that whole thing come across? Do you separate steroid era, or he's your 3rd best player ever, he should be in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts on and a lot of things, and that Barry Bonds essay was one of my most it was one of my favorites also, because I didn't try to hide from anything. I wanted to dive in and write about everything. So if you'll remember, I wrote 2 essays in one. I wrote, here's one way to look at Barry Bonds. Here's another way to look at Barry Bonds. Here's one way to look at Barry Bonds. And I just kind of went back and forth because he was so, he was such a titanic figure of his time. I've been a voter, a Hall of Fame voter for 20 years, and I've always voted for Barry Bonds. And Roger Clemens too. I really believe that. Look, I don't. I think none of us are happy about what happened in the steroid era. None of us are happy that but I've always felt like that the players themselves have been sort of, they've taken the entire brunt of that era. I mean, this was a time when baseball did not test. This was a time when, home runs were, as they are now, everybody was pushing more home runs. I mean, it's not like there were any teams out there like discouraging players. And I imagine that if we could get behind the scenes, I'm sure that teams were very much encouraging players to do what they had to do. Right. That's sports. So I absolutely think he should be in the Hall of Fame. I absolutely think he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest hitter who ever lived. And of course, as a young player, he was all around everything. There's a funny story. When I wrote the book originally, it actually ran online as I was doing it, the Baseball 100. And when Henry Aaron is number 4, and when Henry Aaron essay came out, I got a call at home from Bud Selig. Henry Aaron was Bud Selig's favorite player. They were very close friends. And he called me up to tell me that it was the best essay he'd ever read about Henry Aaron, which was an incredibly nice thing for him to say. And I wouldn't have told that except for the second part of the story. But he was very kind and went on and on and on about how much he loved it and whatever. And then he stopped and he said, okay, well, one quick question for you. I know that you probably have Babe Ruth ahead of him. And I said, yes. And he goes, I know you probably have Willie Mays ahead of him. And I said, yes. And he said, well, who's the third guy? And I said, Barry Bonds. And that was the end of the conversation.
I was going to say,
that was pretty much where that conversation ended. But yeah, no, I mean, look, I think what I wanted to do, because for me, the rankings were secondary. Like they were important as a driving force for the story. But I whether somebody was 77 or 68 or 53, like they're all, great. But what I really wanted was I wanted each of my top 10 to sort of represent something. So I wanted number 5 in the list is Oscar Charleston, who is a player I imagine many people have never even heard of, and I wanted that. I wanted him to be number 5 because I wanted it to challenge the reader. I wanted the reader to go, wait a minute, who is this? How is he number 5 on this list? How is he ahead of Ted Williams? Right? Like what's the story here? And challenge them to sort of, ask themselves, is this possible? Is this possible that this player I've never heard of who played in the Negro Leagues was the 5th or 4th or 1st or, greatest player who ever lived? And so I wanted each of those to do that. And I really wanted to do that with Bonds because to me, like I could have put Bonds higher. I absolutely could have put Bonds ahead of Ruth. I could have put him ahead of Mays. I don't think I wanted to, but I wanted to put him in a place where people would have to be challenged and say, you know, I don't like this at all, or I think this is too low, or I think this is great. And so that was what I was thinking about.
Before these guys, sorry, Ted, because we're probably going to move off of Barry Bonds. I just wanted to say one other thing real quick, because we've got 25 other things we want to talk to you about.
Sure.
We don't want to talk about Barry Bonds for the next 45 minutes or whatever. But one thing I think is cool about today's day and age and, you know, social media, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram Reels and everything, Barry Bonds has had a little bit of a resurgence. Obviously, I try to watch anything Barry Bonds, but there's a lot of content out there of him talking about hitting, him watching video back. I've seen, you know, split screen stuff with like him and Greg Maddux, him and like an Eric Gagne at bat. That's just like legendary. And that kind of stuff to me is what makes me think that putting him at number 3 on your list is so legitimate. Because when you talk about players who played against him, they don't even mention anything. They say he's the best hitter I ever had to face. Any pitcher says that. Or hitters are like, I could listen to Barry Bonds talk about hitting all day, every day. So that's the kind of stuff I think like, so I was thinking like Ty Cobb. Maybe if social media was a thing when he was around, maybe he could have, I don't know, revitalized his image a little bit or something like that, where I feel like Barry Bonds is doing that a little bit.
Well, I think there has been a resurgence. I thought he was very, very good in the Willie Mays documentary that appeared in on HBO. And then I was part of that Greg Maddux documentary where he and Greg Maddux went back and forth on what one at bat was like between them. And it was fascinating. And I think it also, you know, not that Barry Bonds did fine in his life, right? Like Barry Bonds is one of the greatest players who ever lived. He's the home run record holder. He made, you know, many, many, many hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, he did fine, but you know, at some point your legacy does matter. And when I think about Barry Bonds and what his legacy is, sadly, it's so tied up with the steroids. But even beyond that, I don't think people appreciated how smart of a hitter he was. You know, he wasn't just a great natural hitter. He was some of that. But, I mean, this is a guy who never swung at a bad pitch. This is a guy who had 370 one year. This is a guy who no matter how strong he got, became so good that literally nobody would pitch to him. He was intentionally walked 120 times in a season. So there's never been a player like him in the game, for sure. He literally broke the game, and you know, there's a sense at times that Shohei is like at that level, and there in some ways he is, but in other ways nobody will ever be Barry Bonds.
You know, Joe, I'm the old guy of the podcast, and I got my love of baseball obviously from playing it as a youngster, but you know, getting baseball cards, collecting baseball cards. And I remember I was about 10 years old, and for Christmas, Santa brought the Fireside Book of Baseball, volumes 1, 2, and 3. Well, first of all, yours is right next to it. Those are my 4 treasured possessions right now. But like I said, at 10, when I was just becoming a baseball fan, I just treasured that book. How about you? When you were young, was there a go-to book that you still have on your shelf?
Well, as soon as you said that, I was starting to look over here because I got the Fireside Book of Baseball right over there. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I loved stories. I mean, the book that changed it for me, really changed everything for me. What I wanted to do as a writer was the Boys of Summer. That was the baseball book that just completely changed it for me. But I would gobble up everything and anything as a kid. And I didn't like to read, but I liked to read. Like reading about sports, particularly about baseball, didn't feel like reading, right? Like, you know, reading was having to read, you know, the Scarlet Letter or something in school. But reading about baseball felt completely, you know, like playtime. And so I loved, you know, those kinds of stories. I loved collections of, like, you know, I loved, as I got older, I loved reading Roger Angel's, you know, stories about traveling around baseball. It's such a good writing sport. I mean, it really is. You know, I've written pretty much every kind of sport around the world. My next book is about being a fan that I wrote with my friend Michael Schur, and we literally wrote about every sport we could think of. It's like 37 chapters about 33 different sports or whatever. and I love them. I love anything with a ball, anything with competition. I love, but there is something about baseball and the history of it and the pace of it and the stories. I think it's the best writing sport we've had, and there's so many good baseball books out there.
I agree.
I mean, your book is my favorite. This is a weird question. I don't really know how to ask it. I don't know how you're going to answer it, but each chapter in your book, it kind of is almost like a love letter, to the player, to the game. Like how reading your book is like how baseball should make me feel. It makes me feel like I'm watching Babe Ruth. It makes me feel like I'm watching the Sandlot, excuse me. I mean, even down to the audiobook, the narrator, Kori, I just shot him out. It's like he's got the voice of baseball.
He's so good. He's so good. He's so good. It's funny. My next two books were Why We Love Baseball and Why We Love Football, and I narrated those books. They asked me to narrate my own books, and I did what I could, but I wasn't Kori. Kori is just he's a professional, and he's so good at it. Thank you for saying that. That was what I was thinking. What I wanted when I wrote the book, when I wrote Baseball 100, and this was also true when I wrote Why We Love Baseball, but particularly Baseball 100, I didn't know, I knew individually what I wanted to do. I knew that individually I wanted to write about all these players. I wanted to tell stories that people didn't know. I wanted it to be a love letter to the game and to those players. I didn't know how it would fit into a book, though, right? Because they were all individually written, right. And it was only after doing a few of them and sort of seeing it oh, this is a history of baseball. That's what this is. This is a history of baseball through its 100 best players, greatest players, and of course, I could have taken 20 out and put 20 other people in, so it wasn't, But what would this book be for me? It was what would this book be without Ichiro? What would this book be without Tony Gwynn? What would this book be without Carlton Fisk? I mean, I could have, put different players in, but it mattered to me like that, But that was the goal. I mean, the goal was very much for it to read, and the sort of nicest thing that I hear, and I've heard it. I mean, I'm very thankful. I've heard this hundreds and hundreds of times now for both Why We Love Baseball and for the Baseball 100 is I was falling out of love with baseball and I read your book and I started falling back in love with baseball. And I love that so much. That was what I wanted. That's sort of the dream as a writer, that you can get people to sort of fall in love with the game again, or for the first time, which, right. I got a letter just a couple of weeks ago from a couple who had just gotten married, and they basically were saying that it was Why We Love Baseball, that book, that sort of brought them together. Like she didn't know anything about baseball. He gave her that book. She fell in love with baseball. And, you hear stuff like that and it's just wow, this is it's a pretty lucky life.
Yeah, it seems like Jared has what, Jared, you said before the Verlander no-hitter that you were at, you weren't really a baseball fan before that, right? Verlander's no-hitter, you were?
No, I stumbled into those tickets. My buddy that was supposed to go with my best friend dropped out at the last second, so I ended up going. That's Matt, you can go ahead, but I was just saying, I'm not a big fan of baseball. One of my buddies, passed your book to me, Justin Schlehuber. I'll give him a shout out. And I just fell in love with it. And to me, the thing that stuck out to me was I was looking at this book. I'm like, oh, this is going to be about players from the 1900s. I'm not going to care about it. Chapter 100, Ichiro. I mean, was that on purpose? Let's just pick the coolest guy and let's suck people in.
It was definitely on purpose. Yeah, it's funny because people did ask the rank, and for those people who are really inside, a lot of the numbers are specifically geared to that player, right? So Joe DiMaggio is number 56 because of the 56 game inning streak. Maddox is 31 because that was his number. And so there are a bunch of these kinds of things, but when you're ranking them, you can't take it too seriously. You can't be like, this guy is 99 and this guy is 98, definitely, right. And I thought, okay, who speaks baseball? In our time, in our era, who is the guy that was the most joyful baseball player of them all? And I bookended it. So, I put Ichiro at number 100 because to me he's the most joyful player of our lifetime, And I put Willie Mays at number 1, who I think is the most joyful player who ever lived. And it was like that. That was very much purposeful and something I thought about.
Yeah, I mean, we hear debates all the time. Who's the greatest basketball player of all time? Who's the greatest quarterback of all time? And sometimes it is a little exhausting because it's like really, what's the difference between 1 and 2? Like,
right. Right.
they're both really, really good. So obviously,
yeah, I've always loved that line of like, I'll tell you what, you take one and I'm happy to take the other. Right. Like, I mean, I've always thought like, okay, is it LeBron or Jordan? You know what? I'll take the guy you don't take. Like, it's fine,
Right.
But it's also fun. It's also fun. And there's no question that a big appeal, particularly for the Baseball 100. I also did Why We Love Baseball. I ranked the 50 greatest moments in baseball history in order. But I particularly people, had some, they enjoyed the way that ranking worked, but nobody particularly cared that I ranked the Cubs winning ahead of like Bobby Thompson's home run or whatever. Like that wasn't that. But for the rankings, people cared a lot. And there is not a day that goes by that I don't run into somebody who wants to know why I left this guy out, why I had this guy ranked so low, why I had this guy ranked so high, and that's part of it too, and that's a lot of fun. I mean, I think it's really fun to I think that's the best sport for this. Like, I don't think I've written, my last book was Why We Love Football, which I loved writing, but it was very different. Like, nobody in the world would argue that Sammy Baugh was a better quarterback than Tom Brady. Like, they just wouldn't. Nobody even knows who Sammy Baugh is, basically. But nobody would make that argument. But people will absolutely argue with you if you don't put Babe Ruth at number 1. I mean, I've heard that many, many, many times. And, these are people that their grandfathers are too young to have seen Babe Ruth play. But he still matters. And that's a very baseball thing.
I got one last question with you, just because you're talking about the rankings and where things are. Why We Love Football. I read, I actually listened to your audiobook and you reading that. I thought you did a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
Up there with Gary Height. But I got one critique, and I know you get critiques probably all the time with what's on, what's not there. I know you're a Cleveland Browns fan, so I'm wondering if maybe his NFL career made you take him off. Johnny Manziel, not on the list. Was it possible? Did you think he would be?
Well, Johnny Manziel does get a mention in there when I list off all of the quarterbacks in Cleveland. There was some thought. I did have some thought about this, specifically about Johnny Manziel upsetting Alabama. Like, I did have some thought about that. But there were thousands of moments that I could have done, particularly in college. Like, I wanted to split it up. I mean, it's mostly pro football, but I think there are 30 or so college moments as I remember it. And that's not a lot for a sport that has that kind of history. But that Johnny Manziel, when he upset out, I mean, that was big. That was big time. That was a big deal. He wasn't so good for the Browns, though. That part didn't work out that well.
I was a 6th grader watching that, so probably it hit me in my sweet spot, whereas it probably wasn't the same for others. But
I was going to say Jared's generation. I mean, I remember we all remember the Johnny football, but the younger generation watching Johnny football throwing touchdowns out there. I mean, I can only imagine you'd go straight to your backyard and try to do the exact same thing.
I mean, honestly, for my time, in which I did include it, was Flutie, the Flutie pass. I mean, that's basically the same thing. And Flutie was the coolest, and he was this little guy running around just like Manziel, I mean, it's college football. That's what college football brings, is like this joyful energy that I think is very cool.
Yeah, I've got one more for you, and I know maybe Ted and Jared might have another one. Another book that you wrote. You wrote a book on Joe Paterno, and I got hired at ESPN in early 2011, and people ask like, what's one of the coolest projects you work on? What's the coolest game you work on? And one that always comes to mind, the night that story broke, and you remember the cameras rushed his house.
Oh yeah.
Penn State students were going to his house to show support
there,
and everything. And the camera. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, all about that. When the video came in, it's crazy to think about this. 2011, when the video came into ESPN, I was working on SportsCenter. I had to literally subtitle it for SportsCenter because back then there wasn't AI. There was a format, but it wasn't what it is today. I had to literally subtitle Joe Paterno's words and stuff for SportsCenter. Like being a female production assistant who was a Penn State alum,
Oh, wow.
crying her eyes out because Joe Paterno, this story is breaking, trying to type out this subtitles for this insane story that is just about to take over the college football world. And we didn't even know what it was about to be, that night, what it was going to turn into. So you were there, you wrote the book on Joe Paterno, and obviously some other stuff that ended up kind of coming out afterwards. Can you then sadly he passed away, 74 days after he was fired. It was just a very, very unfortunate story. And, we don't have to get into all the other details. I'm just wondering about your experience covering the Paterno story and then the access that you had with the family and everything.
Yeah, no, it was an incredibly sad story. And that book was very, very difficult, obviously, for a lot of reasons. But I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of that book. So I went to write his life. I didn't go to write the scandal. I was living in State College. I went to write his life. His family actually wanted me to write the book. They literally pushed me to write his life story. He'd already had a couple of books written, but they didn't think that there was a book that had really captured him in all of his glory, but also in all of his humanity and everything else. And so, that was late in the season. It was November 4th, and they were in a bye week. He had just set the record for most college wins. And it was, it just blew up. I mean, obviously it just blew up. You say it took over the college football world, took over the entire country. It was the biggest story in the country for 2 weeks, I would say. And I was in the middle of it. I didn't want to be in the middle of it, but I was. I mean, I was the guy. I was the biographer there writing about it. And it was really, really hard, because what was so hard and what's still hard, because people all of the time ask me about it, was getting to the truth. And that was all I wanted to do. My entire goal was to get to the heart and the truth. And everybody thought they knew the truth. Still do. I just have people all the time come up to me to tell me what they know. I know Joe knew this, or I know this, or I know that Joe didn't know anything, or whatever. And of course it was a painstaking day by day of talking to everybody and spending time with Joe himself and talking to his family and talking to his friends and talking to victims. I mean, talking to everybody to try to get to the heart of what the real story was. And I feel like I got it. I feel like I got the story of a man who was certainly imperfect, but also was really demonized, for a role that for being pretty human. I mean, it's, there's a reason that Jerry Sandusky got away with what he got away with, and that is that everybody looked away. It wasn't one guy; it was an entire community that looked away and was fooled, honestly, by him. It's a very, very sad story, and I'm really proud of that book. I was actually I did an interview earlier today, and was asked a great deal about it, and what I'd said was that of all the books I've written, there's a part of me that's like, I'll never be prouder of a book because of what I endured to write it. At the same time, I would never want to go back and do it again. I've wanted to have a lot more fun with my writing since then, because that was a very, very difficult thing to do. But I am proud of it. I'm very, very, very proud of that book.
Well, Joe, I'll have the last word here before we let you go. It's been a real honor to have you on here with us.
Of course.
I got kind of a two-parter here, and I'm going to go full disclosure here. We talked about it off air. So Jared's talking up the book, right? And it just got us intrigued. So I decided, okay, I'm going to hop on Amazon. I'm going to buy the book, not the audiobook. I like the real book.
Sure.
Come to find out, probably a year or two ago, one of my children got me your book for Christmas, and it's just been sitting on my shelf, and I didn't realize it. So
nice.
But that has nothing to do with the question I have here. Growing up, my mom's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right?
Sure.
And the 1960 World Series always just totally consumed me with Mazeroski. The Pirates totally dominated by the Yankees in 3 games, but the Pirates somehow won the World Series. That's one of the all-time World Series in my lifetime.
Absolutely.
And then my favorite of all time is the 68 Tigers. I mean, I look at that as the actual final World Series where they had the two pennant winners going
Yeah.
against each other. The storyline with Mayo Smith, making the move to put Stanley at shortstop to allow Kaline to get into this series.
Absolutely.
Bob Gibson, the dominant pitcher in all the world, other than Denny McLain that year, who had 31. But then Mickey Lolich steps up, not only wins 3 games, but hits a home run, his only home run of his life.
Yeah.
I guess my long-winded question to ask you here is, have you thought about maybe a book of some sort on the greatest moments or teams in baseball history? That's part one of my question.
Well, Why We Love Baseball is the greatest moments in baseball history. So that is that. And there's a lot on the 1960 World Series in there, which was really, really fun to write because found much in the same way that when I wrote the Baseball 100, I wanted to find angles and different versions of stories that people didn't know, because a lot of these moments, some of these moments, nobody knows, right? Some of these moments, there's a story in there about a young girl, 11-year-old girl who threw 2 perfect games in Little League. There's stuff like that in there too. But like the very famous moments, like Gibson, like Clemente, like the Mazeroski home run, like the Bobby Thompson home run, Reggie's 3 homers, things like that. I wanted to be able to tell those stories in a different way. And that was really, really great fun. And that's what sort of led me to do Why We Love Football in the same way, where I really wrote about moments. I will tell you, it's not for public, big public consumption yet, but my next book coming out is called Big Fan. That's coming out May 19th. That's the book I traveled the world, but I'm already working on my next book.
Okay.
And my next book is going to be, drum roll, the 100 greatest seasons in baseball history. The 100 greatest individual seasons in baseball history, which, we'll have some. I've worked really hard at it already. So there's going to be some of the same players that are in the Baseball 100, not as many as you would think. But even them, the stories are going to be very different. Like I'm going to write very different stories about Babe Ruth's maybe 1921 season versus, the Babe Ruth story that I wrote for the Baseball 100. And it's so fun. It's so much fun to go back and find, because there are so many great stories of players who were great for 1 year. Just had 1 year where they were just incredible and it was magical and they never were able to recapture it again.
Mark Fidrich.
You will find him in the book. So, but yeah, no, it's 100% true. And so it's really fun, to try to explore different ways to tell the story of baseball. And this is going to be my third sort of in the trilogy. I'm not going to do another one after this, but this is going to be my third in this trilogy of great baseball moments and players and stories. And I feel like I'm just scratching the surface.
Well, I got the 3 volumes of the Fireside book, so I'll have the 3 volumes of yours for sure.
Absolutely.
Final question, off topic, the life and afterlife of Harry Houdini.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. How do you go from baseball and sports to that?
That was a crazy twist. I've always been a Magic fan, like casual, not I didn't know that much about it. But I was pitched on a book about Babe Ruth by a publishing house, and they were like, "We'd love for you to write a book about Babe Ruth." And I was like, I think it's been done. I just think it's been done. There've been, many, including Jane Levy recently writing a book about Babe Ruth. And I just thought, that's been done. And they said, well, if you were going to write a Babe Ruth book, what would it be about? And I thought about that a lot. And I thought, well, if I ever really wanted to do a Babe Ruth book, I'd want to write about the way he inspired wonder, and still does. He was this larger than life figure who people just, he inspired wonder in everybody and everywhere and all throughout the country. And I said, but if I was going to write a book about wonder, I would write about Harry Houdini, because here's a guy who 100 years after his death is we still talk about him. Everybody still
Right.
knows Harry Houdini. He was just an escape artist from
Right.
from a poor family, just this escape artist. And yet, anytime a pitcher gets out of a jam, anytime a quarterback gets out of a sack, he's Houdini. I mean, like, this guy
Right.
still matters. So I wanted to write the story about Houdini, and it would be sort of, I tried something where it's a biography. It does tell the story of Harry Houdini, but it's more about what he's inspired. That's why it's called The Life and Afterlife. So I talked to a bunch of people who still study Houdini, still love Houdini. I talked to a bunch of magicians. I talked to a bunch of different people who collect Houdini stuff. So it's sort of about a little bit about the Houdini cult in some way. And it was wonderful. It was one of my favorite ever experiences. I didn't know anybody in magic. It felt like I was going back to the beginning, because if I'm going to write a sports book, I'll know somebody, and like, I've been doing this long enough. I'll connect with somebody. I'll know somebody, but I knew nobody in magic. I didn't even know how to start. And it was very, very fun. I was just sending literal emails to I sent an email to the casino where David Copperfield was performing, and basically just said, "Hey, I'm writing this book. I would love to talk to David Copperfield." And then he wrote back to me immediately. I mean, it was really great fun. And I still am very close with some people that I spent time with. I literally just went on a retreat with a couple of my favorite magicians in that book. So that book it's very special to me. It was a real turn, and a lot of people didn't get it. There were a lot of people that were like, "I don't understand why you have this Houdini book." But I love that book. I really love it. And it's another book I'm very proud of, because I think it really is great fun.
Well, this has been fantastic. I mean, obviously, what a storyteller, what an author. We really appreciate the time, Joe. Just before you go here, tell our listeners, because we're going to have a lot of interest with this podcast for sure, what's the best spot they can catch up with you? Obviously, they can go online, order your books for sure, but just give a little plug.
Probably the best place to go is just my website, joeposnanski.com. I do a newsletter there that I write pretty much every day. It's free. I mean, there's a paid portion for it for paid readers, but I mean, it's free to join. And there's all sorts of stuff on the website. And then my new book is going to be coming out in May. It's already available for pre-order. It's called Big Fan. And I'm really excited about that one, because it is something completely different.
Looking forward to that. That's Mike Schur from The Good Life. Is that
The Good Place and The Office and Parks and Recreation? Yeah, Mike and I have been doing a podcast together for 15 years, more than 15 years, I think.
Wow.
Long time friends. It was actually his idea to travel around and write about what it means to be a fan. And we went to some of the craziest. We went to the World Darts Championship in London. We went to a bunch of different kinds of games. We tried all sorts of different stunts. It was really a blast. And we learned a lot about fandom, which I think was the whole point. What is it? Why are we so driven by these games? Right. And it was a blast. It was truly a blast.
Well, we really appreciate the time. I promise we won't stalk you, but I might reach out to you down the road sometime. This has been fantastic.
Please do. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, guys, what a weekend. That's all I can say in sports. I mean, Michigan State, Ferris State, the Lions. Where do we want to start in our football conversation?
It was about the polar opposite of last weekend. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
It made us all look like idiots, man. I mean, the Lions, nothing else. I mean, it's the damn Bears, so there's not much. You can't, put too much into it. I mean, the Bears are an implosion. Oh, my God. I feel bad for them. I feel bad for Ben Johnson. I feel bad for the whole situation. Yeah. So then you got the salt in the wound where it's like, literally, he's walking into the Lions' den at Ford Field. Why do we hate him so much? Is it just because he went to the Bears? Can we start
to the Bears?
Why do we hate him so? Is that why?
That's a big reason.
If he went to the Commanders, we wouldn't have a problem with this guy.
No, not as much.
I feel like I can't remember verbatim, but I feel like he had some odd interviews after he took the Bears job, where he wouldn't acknowledge Jared Goff.
Right.
Like he kept calling him like the Lions quarterback. And there was a few other interviews that I feel like just rubbed Lions fans the wrong way. But then the fact that he went to Chicago, I guess,
Oh,
is
and the fact that he phoned in that last game against the Commanders.
Yeah,
he already had the damn job.
Yeah, you can't lose that way, and then he already has a house in Chicago like 2 days later. That can't happen. But no, I mean you said it, Jared. They made us all, even the experts on all the nationwide talk shows and everything. Everyone was questioning the Lions. Are they going to be the same without Ben Johnson? And they went out there and proved a point. Yes, we'll see, because now the next game is in Baltimore on Monday night, so it's going to be like, all right. Kind of like what you said, Jared. Was that just the Bears, or was it the Lions getting things rolling? But it's kind of what we said, Ted, and we've all kind of said it. Jared Goff, we're not haters. When you give him time, and the run game is working, which sets up the play action, he'll will dice people apart. Yeah, and him and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared, you played quarterback. Like, their connection isn't. I can't even imagine what Goff thinks.
Halftime was big pinpoint. It's perfect.
Right. Goff must. I mean, I think of it as like Tom Brady peak with like Julian Edelman. I mean, it's just like Goff just knows where St. Brown's going to be. St. Brown basically catches everything.
Yeah.
When that Lions offense is clicking, that just sets everything up. And hopefully that was what we're going to see. I mean, I don't expect them to go 16-1. They're going to lose probably 4 or 5 more games because their schedule is pretty tough. But no, that was exactly what we needed out of that game.
It's Dan Campbell. It gets them to respond. I mean, they were pissed off at Lions fans. They were pissed off at everybody this week from how we talked about them last week. And you could tell they wanted to send a message. And it's just unfortunate that it happened to be against the Bears. I mean, the offensive line looked a lot better. And also it's like, it helps when you see the Packers. Oh, they did this to the Commanders too. It's like, Packers really might just be that damn good. Which sucks for us, but at least it makes it feel a little bit better when you see another team have the same struggles with them. But I don't know. I'm back into the Lions. I mean, now listen, we'll play the Ravens on Monday night. If they get trounced by the Ravens, then we're going to be back here like we were last week. That's what's magical about doing a podcast. That's what's magical about football. But how could you have any negative thoughts on what we just saw them do? That was a sound beating, man. And the thing that was telling to me about the whole Ben Johnson thing, these players hate him. The Lions players hate him. Like, the staff hates him. I mean, there was a classic Jeff Rieger is such a perfect, like, I give him credit. He asked those like kind of awkward type tough questions when they come, and he asked Ben Johnson about what they thought about them running up the score.
Oh, right.
They were running up the score. I don't care. That's NFL. They always run it. Like, stop us. It's the NFL. It's a big boy league. Like, we're gonna play our offense how we would play if it was 0-0. So I had no problem with Dan Campbell doing it. It just was a little bit telling and shocking to me. Like, they're celebrating after the interception, running the stumble play. It's like, and they really don't like this guy. Like, I thought it was just a fan base thing. Like, no, it seems like it's inside that locker room as well. They don't like him.
Hard to argue that. I mean, that stumble play told it all. I mean, it was a great win. It was great to be a Lions fan on Sunday, that's for sure. And it will tell on Monday Night Football at the Ravens. The other thing is, Green Bay was grass outside. The Ravens, they don't have turf, do they? But it's outside for sure. And we know Goff is so much better inside.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I would. I mean, it's definitely outside at Baltimore. I would assume it's field turf, but it might be grass. Yeah. But I mean, the Ravens are going to be a completely different beast. And I mean, Caleb Williams, he's very up and down. The Bears quarterback, Lamar Jackson, again, going to be a completely different task for the Lions defense. I know we got a few other things to get to. This podcast is going to run a little long. Mm-hmm. Are you guys seeing like the Aiden Hutchinson hate? And like people really questioning, like, oh no, are the Lions really going to give this guy Micah Parsons money, TJ Watt money? Because I understand maybe wondering about that, I guess, but like I can't believe the severity of the injury. He was basically out for a year. He's played 2 games. Like, he didn't play any preseason. Like, he's got to get back into playing shape and get comfortable. Like, let's give him a few games before we start, and I think he's playing like fine. He doesn't have 8 sacks already. Okay. But
when they're on defense, you zero in on him, and I think he's playing fine.
And listen, I was like, I became the Aiden Hutchinson like hater guy. Like, that was like, if he made a play, like people would text me, Aiden Hutch. Like, so I'm kind of the ringleader of that. But that went out the window once he had the start he had the last year. I mean, we saw it. We saw what this guy can be. It's one of the best defensive players in the league when he's right. And even like I think about that Bears game, I think he only had 1 sack, but the interception that Caleb Williams threw to Kirby Joseph, which what the hell is Caleb Williams doing? If you watch Hutchinson on that play, it's like a ballerina, like rushing the passer, spins around the chip block on the edge and then gets through. Like it's like the most magical play you've seen.
Awesome.
Williams just barely escapes and ends up being a good thing for the Lions, but. Yeah, I'm ready to believe in Hutchinson. It was good to see Kirby Joseph get a pick. I mean, we that was what we talked about last week. They got to force turnovers. That's what the defense always did under Aaron Glenn, and we saw that against the Bears. Do you guys have anything else, Lions? Can I transition to another NFL topic real quick?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Nope. Other than I was gonna say one thing. Tesla, man. Kid can play.
And Dan Campbell
can we get this guy some more targets?
No, yeah.
So Dan Campbell says like every time we throw it to him, he's like making a magical play. Like we gotta start getting the ball. That's what a great problem to have that guy waiting in the wings where it's like, man, you got JMO, you got Laporta, you got obviously our 2 stud running backs, Amon-Ra, like you mentioned, Matt. It's like I don't know where you get him targets, but it's a good problem to have. Like worst case scenario, somebody gets hurt, like he's slotting right in, he's gonna make some plays.
Yeah. Go ahead and switch.
Okay, so I'm wrong about everything. Next week it'll turn the tide the other way. JJ McCarthy, I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, to me, after I see this and after I watch every snap of that Monday Night Football game. Now it turns out he's got an injured ankle. He's going to be out next week. Mm-hmm. I'm worried. I'm happy as a Lions fan. After I saw the post-game celebration last week, how he answered the initial struggles and got it done in the fourth quarter last week, I was like, God damn, we're screwed. We're the third best team in this division. Now I'm looking at it. I think everybody's kind of similar. It's like, man, he looked really rough Monday Night Football.
Got to give him a break. He had a kid, man, during the week.
Right. Agree. He had a wild week. Again, this is me just saying this is what my eyes saw. Yeah. I saw somebody who looked a little overwhelmed. I could be wrong. And I hope I'm wrong. I mean, part of me hopes I'm wrong. Part of me, I don't really care if I'm wrong because then it's just better for the Lions. But
absolutely.
To me, it just looked like he was a little overwhelmed. And you hear about the leadership and the intangibles, and that is important. I've thought about this a long time, man, for my life. Leadership might be the most overrated thing there is. I think about back to my playing days, which let's spend 2 seconds there because it's not much to talk about. The last game I ever played against Country Day, we couldn't score. Our offense was dreadful. I remember like thinking in that huddle, man, like what is a rah-rah speech going to do? We can't move the ball. You know what these guys need for leadership? They need me to spark a run. They need me to make a play. Whatever JJ's doing, that's this Harbaughism type crap. It's like it's simply put, you know what leadership is? It's scoring touchdowns. It's Lamar Jackson making plays. It's sparking energy on your team through what you do with your play. It's putting the ball through the rim in basketball. Leadership is maybe the most overrated thing. You know what I would give any leadership parable I learned? I would have gave it to I could run a 4.40. That's more leadership than anything I could have studied in a book or learned through parables. Am I weird? Is that crazy? First, what do you guys think of JJ McCarthy? And then what do you think of the leadership comment?
I feel like, Ted, we need to have we dropped 2 podcasts last week. We need to have a second podcast this week just talking about leadership in sports.
Right.
That's a wild take. I get what you're saying. I mean, you got to be able to play. You can't just be a great leader and have no athletic ability. That's not going to work. But I mean, you got to think that Tom Brady was probably a better leader than he was, at some other things, it's probably a combination, right? You got to have the leader. You got to have the leadership qualities because there's plenty of dudes who are freak athletes but have no leadership qualities and they fizzle out in the pros. I can see what you're saying. I also kind of like what we just said about Hutch, coming back for this injury. It was this JJ's second start of his NFL career. He is still coming off of, he didn't play his whole rookie year because of an injury. He had that he played on Sunday night he played on Monday night and then 2 days later, has a kid. He's missing practice for multiple days. Then he's got to play a Sunday night game, again in prime time. I'm not giving him a pass and being like, no, it's nothing. It definitely was like all right, he's still got some room to grow. But the people, again, after 2 NFL starts that are writing him off, I think that's a little bit premature. I did see some people saying they wonder if, because I saw some people posting the last couple of plays of that game and he was running pretty fine. And they were like, I wonder if the Vikings are just sitting him out for a couple of weeks, let him get his head straight. And I guess they've got some linemen, like their offensive line is really banged
up. Yeah.
They've got some linemen coming back in a couple of weeks. If they're just kind of saying, you got an ankle, go sit out for a couple weeks. We'll let our offensive line. I doubt they would do that. I mean, but no, I think JJ is going to be fine. I really, is he going to be a Hall of Famer? Time will tell. But
here's my take on that. I loved him at Michigan. I don't give a damn what he does for the Vikings. It stinks. Every time the Vikings play, man, I'm saying lose, lose, lose.
It is, for whatever reason, he is the guy that, and this is why I love Twitter. It's like, you think about JJ McCarthy, first half of that game versus the Bears, he's horrible. Everybody's slam dunking it. He's a handoff merchant. He sucks. Then it swings where he's the player of the week. He magical fourth quarter, 3 touchdowns. Then it swings back this week. He looks bad. Now people are slam dunking him again. But what's funny is, like, it's the Ohio State fans, it's the Michigan State fans who just hate this guy. Right. And Dave Portnoy said a message like, "You guys, he beat you. He especially Ohio State is who he's referencing, because they never did beat him. Michigan State did when he was a freshman. You never beat him. You'll never get the best of him. He got the best of you, and now you just got to let it go. It's just, I just love that about sports. And then when we talk about the Lions, where it's just that's why I like this show. That's why I like doing it. You're going to be wrong. You're going to have bad takes. That's just where I see McCarthy right now. What I saw is this is me making a joke more than anything. Arch Manning-esque. It seemed Arch Manning-esque, where he just looked a little overwhelmed. And like you said, it's the second damn game. Kevin O'Connell definitely has his back. The team loves him. You would hope he's gonna get it right. It can't be that bad, like he looked yesterday. So I don't know. That's just, I love football. I love that. I love the back and forth, and I love the debating with Michigan State and Ohio State fans. It's fun.
Well, I always think it's funny too when people use how a guy's pro career plays out to, like, delegitimize what they do in college.
Right.
Like people say Blake Corum. Blake Corum's not really having the greatest NFL career right now, and they're saying that he sucked in college. It's like, no, he was actually incredible in college. What he's doing Tebow. Tebow, same thing. Tebow, seen as maybe the best college quarterback ever, fizzled out in the pros. Like, that has nothing to do with it. But no, I don't know if we got anything else in the pros, but move on to college. The Wolverines. Yeah. I mean. And Michigan State too, off to a 3-0 start. But I don't know what you guys think. There's not really a ton to say about Michigan absolutely obliterating Central Michigan. Sorry, Ted. I know.
Oh, that's okay.
That's your alma mater.
I'm pulling for Michigan. Give me a break.
Right. That's an easy paycheck for Central Michigan. Go to Ann Arbor, get beat up, and get back to Mount Pleasant with a couple $1 million. But no, I think the biggest takeaway for me, the defense obviously shut down Central Michigan. Great. That's awesome. It's Bryce Underwood, and it's no secret. I mean, Biff said after the game, he kept calling him like Batman, and Biff had so many one-liners after that game. It was fantastic. But he basically said that he was very careful, I think, in what he said, to continue to give Sharon Moore credit. He's the head coach, to not take anything away, to be like, hey, he all but said they saw what happened in Oklahoma. They put that aside and said, all right, we got to open this up and give this guy some opportunity to run. I mean, right from the jump, he was rolling out. He's throwing on the run. They've got designed runs. He's scrambling around. I mean, the dude put up 300 yards of total offense. And I mean, that's what we wanted to see. That's what we all knew. Again, Central Michigan. So now Nebraska, on the road at Nebraska. It's going to be a crazy environment. We'll see what they do. And, I think hopefully they saw what Bryce Underwood did in that game and said, this is what we got to do going forward.
Yeah, to me, you can't put too much stock in a win versus CMU, but what it showed me was that our coaches aren't completely idiotic. Like when we had what happened versus Oklahoma, and then you saw the quote about the injury with Sharon Moore, I think we're all gearing up for, this is going to be annoyance all year. This is going to be what we're bitching about every week the rest of the year. And I'm glad they listened to us. I mean, we basically, the fan base bullied these guys into making an obvious choice. Like, let him go. This team is not what it was in 2023. You have to coach them differently. They have to look differently offensively. And like I said, you can't put too much into CMU. I mean, holy hell, CMU is horrible. I mean, freaking horrible. 100% pressure rate without ever blitzing. I've never heard of that in my life.
Oh, it's never happened.
That I've never heard.
No.
It's never happened.
I mean, and you got Coach Drinkle smiling after the game. I mean, listen, we don't need to go down the whole Anise rabbit hole, but my God, can these Michigan MAC schools figure out? I seriously think they're the 3 worst, Division I teams maybe in the entire country: Western, Eastern, and Central. They are horrible, man. But anyway, what was good is that the coaches realized they made a mistake. They weren't too prideful to double down on it, which that's a big time skill to have. Not too prideful to to admit when they were wrong, make the changes. Now I think we're all kind of feeling good, similar to the Lions versus the Bears. What could you have negative to say about the game? It was absolute domination, man. Absolute domination. And I can't wait for this Nebraska game, man. This is a all-time fun game for both programs. Lot to prove, really, on both sides. Sherrone Moore's a new head coach. Is this season going to be lost? Basically just hoping to build for Underwood for the future. If they lose this game, I think that's probably what people are going to think. Nebraska with Matt Rule in his year 3. We know the thing about Matt Rule in year 3. They got to win this game at home, 3:30. Crowd's going to be unreal. Nebraska has the best fans. I can't wait for this game. I'm maybe more excited about this game than I was maybe for the Oklahoma game. I just think there's a little bit more intrigue for both programs. I can't wait to watch this one. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, they're going to have to stop their quarterback too. He's having a pretty good season, Riola, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, baby Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, I mean, 3:30 on CBS. I mean, 3:30 CBS slot. Maybe has lost a little bit luster now that it's not SEC. But no, it's a really cool matchup, and I think hopefully we'll be able to look back in that Oklahoma game was actually a good thing, for Bryce Underwood and the coaching staff and everything. They went in there and got stomped, and maybe we're like, all right, yep, we got to change some stuff up. So we'll see.
Yeah, this game's going to tell us where we're at, where the Wolverines are at. I mean, on the road, hostile crowd. It's going to be a fun game to watch, without a doubt. And then I do like the fact that they're going to unleash Underwood. That just gives him another weapon. Let him run the ball when he needs.
It's not. It was so poetic. Like we talk about how like people are slam dunking on McCarthy being bad, being good, whatever. Like that was the perfect, like to anybody who was contrary to the whole unleash Underwood, let him run. Him running for 110 yards, 2 touchdowns, making electric plays like he did with his legs. Like it was the ultimate like immediate victory for everybody who was saying that last week. So I love that. But don't you almost got to think like if you're CMU, they had to have been like, what the F, man? Like, why are you unleashing this like offense? Like the meme, there's a great video of like a guy who's like he's a Barstool dude. He quote unquote gets drafted like from his couch. Like it's a great comedy video. And he's like pointing at himself with a Corona can. Like that is how I imagine CMU like had to have been feeling when this whole game plan was unleashed on them. Sandwiched between a game between Nebraska and Oklahoma. Again, we can't go back on the past and keep dwelling on it. But man, it's like almost like once you knew you're going to kill Central, it's almost like, man, should we have just waited and unveiled this versus Nebraska next week?
Right.
I don't know. I don't think they could because people were so pissed off about what happened in that Oklahoma game that they had to just get it off their chest and do it. But man, if you're CMU, it's like what the F, dude? Like, couldn't have just like maybe took it a little easy this week on us? Like, holy crap. So.
Well, just down the road, we won't stay on the topic long. MSU, they're quiet 3-0 right now, but the big noise coming out is UCLA fired their coach. How he ever got that job in the first place, I'll never know. But they're saying that Smith might end up at UCLA.
No, I don't see it, man.
Well, I don't either. But these rumors, where do they come from?
Well, he's a West Coast guy.
Right.
Well, I get that.
Right.
Who would like Michigan State? Why would you take what you have right now with Aiden Childs, a developing quarterback?
Exactly.
You finally seemingly have turned the corner at Michigan State. Let's just go hit the rebuild at maybe the worst job in the country. Like it just makes it's hilarious. It's like it's almost like it's Michigan propaganda. It's like let's throw something out that's going to piss off state fans, piss off the state program, and that almost seems like it's because if he took that job, hand to God, I'd have to stop giving opinions on this podcast because I put a 0.0% chance he'd take that job.
I would agree.
I saw some people saying, why would he take that? That's a lateral move. I say, no, actually it's not. Going to UCLA would be a downgrade.
Yeah,
right.
Big time. UCLA is a train wreck of a football program. And it doesn't make sense. You see pictures all the times of the Rose Bowl for their home games.
Nobody there.
It's like 15% full. I mean, I know people say it's so far away from campus for the students and all that. Okay, I guess, but no. Okay, West Coast connection. Sure, maybe he wants to go back home or whatever, but no, I don't know why he would leave MSU for UCLA.
The only reason would be money. I mean, if that's what it's all about, and that's what brought him to East Lansing.
Right.
And that's honestly, I mean, it's 11 o'clock start. I don't hate it because it's like it's a standalone game. Ted, what are you DVR in it? I'm guessing watching
100%. You think I'm going to watch an 11 o'clock game in its entirety?
I might join you on that. It's interrupting with your college football final viewing, but that's an awesome game as well. Like Michigan State, USC, kind of similar to Michigan, Nebraska. Like pretty pivotal game for I think both programs. If Michigan State wins this one, it's like okay, they're a top 25 team. Like they're making a serious push, maybe to the playoff if they can win this game. So I'm excited to watch that one as well. 11 o'clock. That's brutal for Michigan State, brutal for Michigan State fans, but I'm not hating it. I'm gonna be sitting there watching it at 11 p.m.
Very interesting matchup for sure. That's a rematch of a Rose Bowl back in the 90s, I think, when George Perlis was the coach. I believe.
Before my time.
I know it's
one.
before history,
Say.
my man. History, my man.
When did Michigan? I'm not trying to be like a hater, but when did they make a Rose Bowl?
Oh, like I said, I think it was in the maybe it was in the late 80s, early 90s.
The only one I know is obviously 2012 versus Stanford. Maybe it was 2013, which is maybe the most infuriated I've ever been watching a football game. That was Stanford's game plan versus Michigan State in that game was Michigan versus Oklahoma. That's exactly what it was.
What do you got, Matt? You looked it up.
What the hell are they doing? It's like accepting defeat. So,
yeah, 1987.
There you go.
Yep, and they won. They won 2017. Geez, and then they made the Rose Bowl, and this I scrolled up. This is way back in the 50s and 60s. But yeah, 1987. Okay, cool. Yep, yeah. George Perlis.
There you go. Well, while we're on college football, got to talk about Ferris State, man. They downed Tiffin 41-34. Our guy Wyatt Bauer, he gets better and better every week, man. 15 of 29, 232, 2 touchdowns, rushed for 150, 3 more touchdowns. GLIAC Offensive Player of the Week, and on top of that, made his first connection to his brother Tarek for a touchdown.
Awesome.
What a great thing they got going on at Ferris right now. And when you watch them play, it's just like they played in high school. It's
Tony better scrounge around Big Rapids and find some NIL money, because right. I mean, I'm kind of half joking, but man, he's looking good as a redshirt freshman. So, and the D2 always is so crazy. Like they're clearly dominating, but sometimes there's been so many years that like Grand Valley is the clear cut number 1 and they get beaten like the second round of the playoffs, So hopefully they can just kind of keep building on this season and make another run.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see him play Grand Valley. I'm excited for that game.
Can't wait for that.
You got to go to it? You got to go to that one, right?
It depends what's going on with the Wolverines that weekend. I'll see. Maybe. Is it at GVSU?
I don't know. I mean, either way, Grand Valley is an awesome football field. I'll find out. But Ferris, it would have an awesome crowd as well. So win-win either way. Yeah, and I mean, how cool is it to see Trinidad? I don't know if it's Chambliss or Chambly, whatever. He's lining up for Ole Miss in his first starts. Like he's struggling to action and making plays. What do you have? Like 400 total yards, 3 touchdowns, like big SEC win. I mean, pretty amazing when you think about what they're churning out at Ferris. A lot of NFL talent as well. And now we're seeing like, man, maybe it's gonna be the new gold mine of like quarterbacks for somewhere down the line where they move up.
Ferris is like the Alabama of D2, man. I mean, Tony's got them rolling, no question. I'm serious about.
Yeah, you're in it. Sorry.
I'm just going to say I'm serious about this, but it'll never happen because schools like CMU and EMU, when they play like Michigan or Michigan State, they play really just for the payday, right? But realistically, Ferris should match up with CMU. I would match up with Eastern Michigan. They used to be the same division, for crying out loud.
Right. And you see teams play like FBS schools or, like it'd be cool to see a D2. I mean, you'd never see a Ferris or a Grand Valley go play even Michigan State, Michigan, obviously. But yeah, go play one of the direction. Go play Eastern, Western, something like that.
And I was just going to say, I've been to games at CMU, and they never have sellout crowds. I think if they lined up a game against Ferris would bring enough fans, it'd be a packed stadium.
Can you imagine? I mean, the most famous one, App State beating Michigan, obviously. Could you imagine if Ferris went into Central Michigan and beat Central Michigan? That'd be awesome.
Oh, my God. I would go to that game.
I'm not even kidding. I think they would. I mean, from what I saw from Central, which was literally negative infinity yards, it felt like, for the first 3 quarters of that game. So you're telling me Ferris State couldn't do that against Michigan? Like, basically just an absolute bludgeoning, 100% pressures on every drop back? Like, I think you could scheme up a touchdown somewhere in that game.
Right. For sure.
Central would never, because that's like when Ohio State wouldn't play Dayton forever in basketball, and then the NCAA tournament said, "All right, we're gonna match you guys up. We're gonna make you play each other." Central would never do that. Like, because I think they're smart. Like, dude, we probably could lose this game. Like, it's a 50-50 game. Like, I don't think that's crazy to say. So
no, I agree.
Yeah. By the way, Ted, you're probably not going to that game. It's the same day as Michigan State.
Oh, yeah, probably not. Unless the schedule works out, the timing, like if there's an early game and a 7:00 game, something like that.
Grand Valley Ferris is at Ferris this year at 1:00. So if Michigan State is a prime time,
then I might do it.
Maybe you could swing it.
You're saying that Grand Valley's at Top Taggart?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, that'd be fun. That would be fun. What's the date again?
25th of October.
All right, putting it on the calendar.
You've
All right, guys.
If you've never been to a Ferris Grand Valley game, you should do it.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, why not? You got the connections there. You got the storyline. Like, it's Michigan State, man. This isn't 2021 where it's going to be 5-0. Maybe, well, obviously it can't be, but I don't expect there to be a super ton of juice behind Michigan.
All right, we'll be right back with the Prep Spotlight and Owosso head coach Ron Tyner right after this. Well, it's time now for the Prep Spotlight presented by the Jacobs Insurance Agency, local, independent, and trusted. Owosso, just a fantastic game on Friday night, heard right on the Castle, Z92.5, 38-35. Casey and Bart really painted the picture, but you were right down there on the sidelines. We have the head coach, Ron Tyner. Let's start with that big win against Lake Fenton on Friday night at historic Wilman Field. Just some of your thoughts on that awesome high school football game.
I feel like everywhere I've gone since Friday, somebody has said something to me. One of my neighbors put a sign out in their yard. I mean, it's been pretty cool. But, I think for me, the big thing on Friday night was, they start off fast. I mean, they go chew a bunch of clock. They have a great first drive. They go down and score. Our first two plays on offense were kind of miscues. We had some miscommunication there, and then we hit a big one on third down to Braden. I was, first of all, at the beginning of the game, so impressed because in the past, right, and before I took over, the whole thing was like, okay, don't quit. Like, things aren't going to go your way, right? That's part of life. It's going to happen. How you respond, right, is who you are. And I was just so happy with how our kids responded. They just kept playing. They kept competing. It was back and forth. I have great respect for Lake Fenton. Their head coach is a good friend of mine. They do things the right way. They're first-class kids. But our guys just kept chipping away and believed in each other and believed in their own abilities and found a way to win, right? And it doesn't matter if it's 1 point or 100. As long as you got one more than the bad guys, life is good.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, a win's a win, right? Especially
Yes.
when you're rebuilding a program, and the three of us we're three Corona alums, so
Wow. Nobody's perfect.
That's all I was gonna say. With this question, I'm not taking a shot at Owosso. But other than the 2020 season, when everyone made the playoffs, Owosso hasn't made the playoffs since 2012. So it's been a little bit of a rough go for the Trojans.
A little bit.
Yeah, before we started recording,
It's been tough sledding.
Yeah, you said it wasn't a question of if, it was more a question of when. You have confidence in your program, you have confidence in your kids. Can you just kind of maybe elaborate on that even though Owosso has been through a little bit of a tough time, you could see it. You had a vision, you just had to kind of get things going, and now it looks like you got things going.
Yeah, I think we have, and my vision isn't necessarily a place. My vision is how you do things and how you operate. So, I grew up in Michigan. I grew up on the west side of Lansing. I went to Grand Ledge, which is one of the premier Division I programs in mid Michigan. And when I was there, we were pretty regularly a top 10 team in the state, and we just had a way of doing things. You showed up. You worked hard. You didn't miss anything. You enjoyed being a part of a team. There was no complaining. It wasn't about you. It was about the team. It was about the program. It's more important than anything else. And I was really lucky when I got hired here that Kevin Moore was on staff. Kevin is a Grand Ledge guy as well. His dad was actually my very first football coach my freshman year of high school. And so it was really great to have somebody that really saw eye to eye with me on every detail, top to bottom of the program. And so we just took that whole process of doing things the right way. Okay. You work hard, you handle yourself in the classroom, and you just get better every day. And at some point that turns into wins.
As Matt kind of alluded to, I mean, you said it basically fun. I mean, it was tough times there really since 2012. I mean, I think I've said maybe on this podcast, I thought maybe it was the worst job, that there was in the state. It felt like nobody could win there. Now you're here, you're 3-0. I mean, how excited are you for these 3 games coming up? I mean, an undefeated Clio team, then you have the rival against Corona, and then obviously you just take it 1 week at a time, and then Goodrich at the end of that. I mean, it's got to be.
Sure.
Is there a better time to be at Owosso football head coach and inside
Yeah,
the
no,
program
it's
right
it's
now.
good
There's a
living
lot of
right now,
excitement.
dude. It is good living, man. We've worked really hard. We've developed some fantastic kids, and largely, guys. I think a lot of people don't really understand how hard it's been. Um, but man, the reward to be 3-0, and we started off, that way last year too. We just kind of fizzled out in week 4 and found a way to come back at the end of the year and post a winning season. And now is about just taking it one week at a time and winning that week and not getting ahead of ourselves, not getting the situation bigger than it is. But
Right.
I don't think we had a very good practice today, to be honest with you. So I chewed their butts a little bit tonight, and because in the past we've played some teams where we haven't taken them as seriously, and hasn't gone our way. So we tried to correct that. And what's different now is we're not just playing to win a game, right? Right. We're playing for the pride in our school, the pride in our community, and my thing is like our kids have a chance to turn the tide here long term and make this a really, really good program and give our community something that we can rally around, and our community something that we can be proud of. And we just keep working. And obviously last year, we're so excited, and the kids were so excited to be 5-4, and that's a great accomplishment
Yeah.
and to have a winning season. But I want to get to a point where we're disappointed with 5-4.
Right.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
you talked about your background in Grand Ledge, and
hmm
obviously you're in your 4th year now, so your program building, and now you got some light at the end of the tunnel right now that you're
sure.
looking at, right? Well, how tough was it the first couple of years where you're playing young kids, with the notion that you might not win games, but they're going to get that experience and be ready to go in a
Yeah, no,
couple of
I
years?
mean, and we went through that when I coached in college. At some places we played some young guys, and then they got older, and then we got really, really good.
Hmm.
The best thing about a freshman is he'll be a sophomore next year, right? And the best thing about the sophomore is he'll be a junior, and so on. And then you get to their senior year, and you're like crying. You're like, "Gosh, don't go, man. I love you. I don't want you to go."
Yeah.
Um, I think you just have faith in the process, and as long as we're getting better every day and every year, and we see improvements, then that's good. I mean, I'm like anybody else. Do I wish we won 6 or 7 games last year? Do I think we could have? Yes, but we didn't. We
Yeah.
we got to appreciate the progress we made, and find a way to make that up in our off season. But uh, our kids that have played a lot have developed really, really well in our program. I mean, you look at our seniors, we're thin. Like I only got 4 seniors,
Yeah.
but 3 of them are 4-year varsity starters,
Right.
and they're dudes now. I mean,
Yeah.
they are dudes. One is our quarterback, Liam, and then Carter McCulka, our offensive tackle, and Ben Neese, an offensive guard for us.
What can you tell us about those two guys, and then obviously some of the other key cogs you have that are really turning the tide for Owosso? I mean, it sounds like Liam Patrick is a speedster, absolutely dynamic with his legs. I mean, Carter
Yeah,
McCullough committed to Eastern Michigan. I mean, what can you tell us about some of those key guys who are really, getting it done on the field?
I've talked about Liam like this before. Liam is the most competitive kid that I have ever coached in my career, ever. And I mean, I've coached college
Right.
All-Americans. I coached the, NCAA Division III Player of the Year. Nobody is as competitive as that kid, and he's just flat out electric. I was talking to Coach Borski over at Lake Fenton in pregame, and um, Liam's first varsity snaps were against Lake Fenton, and I mean, even then, like man, he got in there, and some stuff started happening, and it was good for the Trojans. I just feel like Liam, anytime he touches the ball, we have a chance to score
Yeah.
anytime. And then obviously Carter, I mean, he's a big hombre now. But he is tough, he is hardworking, he's a fantastic leader. He checks every single box that any college coach wants, and every single guy that's come in the building to see him, whether it was Michigan State, Northwestern, Eastern Michigan, Harvard, Yale, doesn't matter, right? Every single coach said the same thing, like, dang, coach, that dude is a finisher. Like he just plays to the echo of the whistle.
Yeah. I mean, if you need a lot of good players, but experience is such a big thing. I mean,
Sure.
yes, you need elite players to win, of course, but when you've got 3rd and 4th year varsity starters that are your leaders, your best players, I mean
Yeah.
that just sets the
Makes me
tone
look
for
like I
the
know
whole
what I'm
program.
doing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's awesome, and it's no surprise that you're turning things around. I can tell. Just this is my first time talking to you, just by hearing you talk about how you run your programming. I mean, I think you're going to continue to build things there. You mentioned the community earlier, and again, we're from Corona, so we understand that area. The
Yeah.
Durans, the Chestanines, the Ovidelses, those towns in our area that when the football team's rolling, I mean that community, it gets behind there. And we've talked about historic Wilman Field a number of times on this
Yeah.
podcast, and how it's one
Love
of the
it.
coolest venues in all of Michigan. I mean, especially when it's a packed house. I mean, it's such a great stadium. Can you talk about that, playing there, and then maybe just the community and how you're seeing now that, they're seeing you got your program going, and how big it is for the community to be supporting your kids?
Well, one of our assistant coaches kind of put up the best. We were talking at practice. Brad Riglow, who played on that 2012 team that we had, he's like, dude, man, I look back and like the stands were full. Like people that usually chuck the deuce at halftime, they're still there, and everybody's into it. Everybody's invested. It's an awesome place to play. Like literally every single coach that comes into Wilman is like, dude, this is so cool. I love this place. Right. And for me, like I've learned to love it. I was, when I was these kids' age, I was pretty spoiled. I went to a school that had a brand new building and a brand new athletic facility and brand new everything. So, you get to appreciate it, and it's cool because you get to see what it means to the kids and how much that turf and that house means to them. I love that part of it. And in terms of the community part, it's to be honest with you, the community part of football is way different than probably when we grew up, because like there was no schools of choice. Like I roll past signs going to work every day of kids that play in communities that aren't Owosso, and I think what we're doing now is we're saying like, hey, you don't got to go anywhere else. You can stay here. You can get a fantastic education. We can develop you as a football player. You can compete at a high level, and we're going to get you opportunities to play in college if that's what you want to do. But to see the people that have waited for this place to be good for so long, it's just been super cool, because it's like this weight lifted off their shoulders. They're like, gosh, it's finally here. We're finally what everybody thought that we could be.
Yep.
What's going to be the key going into this week against Clio? I mean, I watched their film. I know Ted has their quarterback stats right at the ready. He can list them up. I'm sure you know them.
Yeah, he runs around real fast.
Pretty dynamic. What's your early scouting report on Clio?
I mean, when we're on defense, it's pretty clear. Like you got to control the quarterback, and you got to count for number 8, right? I mean, he can run around and do some things up front. I mean, I think we're really hard to match up with up front. I mean, we've got big guys, we've got long guys, we've got physical guys. We have to, just like last week, right, contain the quarterback. If we contain the quarterback and we keep number 8 under control, we're going to be just fine. Offensively, I mean, we are what we are, man, and we don't try to hide it. Like we don't run a bunch of different stuff. Like we're going to run what we run, and we're going to out formation you to get ourselves in good leverages and good positions to be successful. So I think we match up very favorably on both sides of the ball. But like I said, right there, we got to handle that quarterback, and they're sitting there saying the same thing, right? Like they're like, okay, like we got to handle 6, and that's what it was last night, or last Friday, excuse me. I mean, it was, in my opinion, we got a ton of great players in this league, but in my opinion, it was the 2 best quarterbacks in the league that played last Friday, and I think both of our game plans were the same. Like, let's control that guy. Let's control the other team's quarterback.
Well, we'll let you out of here with this. We'll go back to that game for just a second last week. I mean, I was not there. I was listening to it on the radio, and I was not missing a beat. I mean, it was tense all the way down the final 4 minutes. I mean, you kick a field goal. Braden Reed kicks a field goal with 4 minutes to go. My first question is, before we let you go, was there a second thought about maybe going for it, or were you going to kick it all along? That's question 1.
Oh, no, there's a second thought. And, one thing about me as a coach is I talk to my assistants and I take input. And again, I'm really, really close with Coach Moore, just because we grew up in the same place and played for the same guy and think exactly the same way.
Right.
And so we really thought about going for it on fourth down. I mean, again, you put the ball in number six's hands and anything can happen. We're really good up front, but uh, just decided, we'd go ahead and kick it and play defense. Jared Jackson, who played on those really good teams that Tom Harkema had as our defensive coordinator and has done a fantastic job with our defense. So, we had faith in them that they could handle the situation, and ultimately they did. I mean, we kicked the field goal and kicked off to them, and they scooted down the field pretty dang quick. But we
That was
found a
going to
way
be
to
my
make
part two
plays.
question. Sorry to interrupt. That was going to be my part two question. What was going through your mind when they took it downfield and you finally close it out with an interception with just a couple seconds to go?
There's so much going through my mind, and like one of the kids kind of said, like, Coach, like, you weren't excited on the sideline in the fourth quarter, like when big things were happening. It's like, because I mean, when you're the head dude in charge, like you gotta be thinking about every situation that
Right.
could happen and how are we going to respond? What's our answer going to be? But I was a little worried,
Right.
I ain't gonna lie to you. But I think they mowed her down and they threw a great ball into the end zone. It was in their kid's hands, and our DB batted it down to give us another down to play. And I mean, they ran a running back wheel that was delayed out of the backfield, and Evan Krofchek just did a fantastic job playing under control and trusting his teammates to pick up the guy that was going over the top of him and rallying down to the wheel to make the pick. And um, you're just so excited for the kids and so excited for the coaches and everybody that put all the hard work into that to see them be successful. It's just pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, 3-0 Owosso High Trojans for head coach
Yeah.
Ron Tyner. It sounds pretty good. Why don't you take a little 3-point podcast karma with you over there to Clio? Make it 4-0, and
There you go.
we'll be checking out the Trojans down the road. Good luck to you Friday night at Clio. Battle of 2 3-0 teams, man. Doesn't get much better than that, Coach.
No, you're
Thanks,
good.
Coach.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, guys. Ron Tyner, man, 4 years at the program. Huge game coming up Friday night at Clio. I gotta believe Trojan Nation will make the trip over there. There's some decent restaurants over in the Clio area. Go grab a little grub and go watch a good football game on the turf over at Clio. They got a pretty nice stadium over there.
It's a cool story too, because I mean, we talked about it with Coach Tyner. Owosso has turned things around. He's helped turn it around. They've had a rough go. Clio also, like I'm
Same
pretty
way.
sure didn't Clio go winless last year?
Clio and Owosso have been kind of, long lost lovers where it was about a 10-year stretch where they were just brutal. It's pretty amazing to see them both sitting at 3-0. Really, no winner, no loser in that game. I mean, there is, but just amazing where both those programs have come from and where they're at right now. I mean, an exciting game. 3-0 should be a good crowd.
Absolutely. 3-Point Podcast is brought to you by the Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center, the orthopedic walk-in clinic available for their sports-related injuries Monday through Fridays, 8 to noon, no appointment needed. Our other great partners include AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Nichols Painting, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, Shiawassee County Fair and ALS of Michigan. The next Z92.5 Castle Game of the Week, Friday night, September 19th. Lansing Eastern at St. John's. Very special thanks to our guest, Joe Posnanski of the Baseball 100 and Owosso head football coach, Ron Tyner. Peace and love, everybody. Be kind. Thanks for listening.